Storybox Audio. Storybox Audio. Storybox Audio. Storybox Audio. Storybox Audio. Storybox Audio.
Welcome to the Choose to Change 90-Day Reentry Program. If you are a visitor or new to this program, we welcome you and we are glad you are here. Many of us walked into these rooms not sure what to expect, but many of us stayed because we saw real people with real problems who had real hope. This 90-Day Reentry Program is a self-supporting group sponsored by the Choose to Change Foundation. There are no dues or fees to attend a class, but we do encourage donations from our members and anyone who believes in what we are doing. The only requirement for membership is a sincere desire to change. So if you're ready to change your life, you're in the right place. I skipped. Through this program, you will learn the tools and resources to finally change your life forever and a relationship-based support system to keep you going. For many of us, there is no easy way out of the mess we created in our lives, even if it wasn't your fault. But sometimes it was your fault. So, anyway. But the good news is that there is a way out if you will choose to believe in the impossible. Welcome. My name is Frank Salazar, and I've been a member of the Choose to Change program going on 10 years, I think 9 to 10 years. It's been a while. And we have a special guest today, Pastor Jeremy Moreno. Orlando isn't here today, but we're in for a treat. And I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Jeremy. But before that, I'm going to share just a little story, a teeny tiny story of one of the times when I met Pastor Jeremy when he was just a little boy, and his dad had announced over the pulpit once that little Jeremy said, "For when I grow up, I want to be a Power Ranger or a pastor." No, well, he's a pastor. Give it up for Jeremy Moreno.
I'm always scared when Frank does these introductions because I never know what he's going to say. I thought he was going to go in a different direction. As you could see, he did not turn out to be a Power Ranger, so. Orlando isn't here with us tonight. I appreciate you guys for coming. He is living out what he teaches us, right? To take care of our families. Husbands, take care of your wives. Fathers, take care of your children. So Orlando has gone to a marriage retreat to invest into his marriage. And so he did call me up to be here tonight. I do consider it an honor. I'm not going to take too much of your time tonight, but I do want to speak a little bit on views. Views. I have 3 questions for you. How do the people around you view you? Your family, your friends, society. How do they view you? What do they see when they see you? Secondly, how do you view yourself? When you look at your life, when you see the person in the mirror, who do you see? What do you see? And lastly, what do you think God sees when he sees you? When he looks at your life, when he looks down and he looks at you, what does he see? Those 3 questions are very important because it matters what we think people think of us. It matters what you think about yourself. And it matters what you think God thinks of you. Can we be honest here tonight that sometimes, even though we give off an image, we give off confidence, maybe we give off just who we are around people, how we talk. But can we be honest and say sometimes we don't think too highly of our own selves? We can look at things we've done. Have you ever been mad at yourself? Right? Maybe we don't voice it to people, but when things happen in our life, or when we get in trouble, or when we start arguing and fighting, we can tend to blame others, right? We could tend to look at It's your fault. It's how I was raised. It's my situation. It's my life. But how many know sometimes maybe we don't voice it, but we can go home, think about our life, and begin to be mad at ourselves for what we've done. We can view our own life as in not the best light. You can look at yourself and begin to say, I am not a good person. I'm not what people think I am. I remember there were some words that people would tell me that would bother me. They would really bother me. People would come up to me, they'd pat me on the back, and they would, I got married young. I got married when I was 19 years old. And I got involved in the church, and I just began to do things in church and just doing everything that I thought was supposed to be done good. And people would come up to me and they'd say these words, and they would bother me. They would say, man, you're such a great man. You're such a good guy. They'd look at me, they'd look at my marriage and be like, man, you're such a great husband. You're such a good person. And those words would strike me in a negative way because I wasn't viewing myself like that. I knew there was things in my life that weren't right. I didn't deserve those words, so I didn't take them. Can we be honest and say that we've been through that? Do you know that others can begin to say things about you? How many have ever been insulted by somebody sitting down and just telling you off? You're a loser. You're never going to amount to anything. You're stuck in a cycle. You stop trying. Has anybody ever told you that? Stop trying. You're not going to make it. Those are the words that people speak into us because that's how they view us. They view us as weak. They view us as broken. They view us as not normal. They view us as something less than they are or something less than what society is. But can I tell you, their view and your view can change. And even if it doesn't, you have to understand that God's view of you has always been the same. There's a story that goes that I'm going to share here. Maybe you've heard it before. My pastor shared this with us years ago, and I always kept it here. It says, the story goes, there was a small frog that was born inside of a well. A little well. A little tadpole turned into a little frog. And his whole life he spent inside that well. Every day of his life he's just jumping around in there. There was water in there. There was little algae that grew that he ate, and all his life he spent inside of a well. He thought the whole world was the well. One day a bird comes on top of that well and lands there and begins to talk to the frog. They become friends, and the bird begins to tell him, hey, I was flying on a tree. And the frog's like, a tree? What's a tree? It's those green things, and they're up in the hills. What's a hill? And he's just amazed at everything this bird is telling him. Finally, this little frog starts to laugh and just goes, oh my gosh, bird, you have such an imagination. All those things don't exist. The only thing that's real is this well. And the bird just looked at him and felt sad and took off. Because all that frog had known was the well. He had no idea that the well was inside of a bigger world. In other words, what that story illustrates is that we all have different perspectives of the same world we're living in. You can view it different than I can. You view it different than other people do. But I want to talk tonight about your perspective or the vision you have, what you see. I want to read with you a portion of scripture. I'm going to tell you the story, then just read a little bit of it. It's in Numbers chapter 14. Numbers chapter 14. And I'm going to begin to read. Let me explain a little bit, then we'll read. So, what happened here is the children of Israel, the people that were liberated from slavery, right? They were slaves. God sent Moses to get them out of Egypt. He liberated them. They were no longer slaves, but they had no home. They had no place to call their own. So they began a journey in the desert. How many have heard that story? They began a journey in the desert. They're going. God is supplying them food. God is supplying them shade, sun, right? Then they finally get to a place where God tells them, that land right there, you see that, those cities, that's your land. That's like if you met with your family and they say, hey, mijo, I have an inheritance for you. I got 25 acres for you out there in Alton, right? Or wherever there's land. I don't know where that much land is. And you go there and there's a gated community. You're like, I thought this was mine, right? Like, I thought you had told me this was going to be mine. God told him, hey, this area is going to be yours. It's yours. I gave it to you. So all you got to do is kick out those people. So Moses sees all these cities and he decides, okay, we need to see what kind of people they are. We need to know if they have weapons. We need to know if we're going to fight them. We need to see what's going on. So he sent 12 spies. 12 spies to go look at the land. What do you think he wanted? I'm going to ask the question here. What do you think Moses wanted them to come back and tell him? Right? You send 12 spies to go look at the land. What do you think? If you were the leader, your whole nation is there. You're waiting for a place to give them, to call it their own. You send them out to go spy out a land. What do you want to hear from them? Anybody want to take a guess? Yeah, like, okay, well, is there water? Right? Is there food there? How big is it? Can we conquer them? Yeah, exactly. Do they look weak? Right? You want to know the truth is what you want to know. You're sending spies to go spy out a land, and you want to hear truth. You don't want them to come back and lie to you. Right? So then they come back. 12 spies went out. How many were speaking negatively? Anybody know? 10. 10 were speaking negatively. Oh, well, the walls are too big. The people are giants. The cities are fortified. They literally said, we cannot take over. I'm going to read it with you. Numbers 14:30. It says, except for Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun, you shall by no means enter the land which I swore I would make you dwell in. But your little ones, whom you said would be victims, I will bring in, and they shall know the land by which you have despised. But as for you, your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and your sons shall be shepherds in the wilderness 40 years, and bear the brunt of your infidelity until your carcasses are consumed in the wilderness. So these spies came back. They give a bad report. They say, we can't do it. And now because of what they said, everybody believes them. That's the thing about people's opinion. Have you ever heard somebody's opinion that is so good that it starts to convince you of something that you know is not right? That's why these talk show hosts, you ever seen them, these political talk show, these talk shows on the radio or on YouTube or on TV, they're very opinionated and they state their opinions as if they were facts. That's why you need to fact check things. You need to know what's right and what's wrong. Just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true. Even if they say it with conviction, you have to find out for yourself. Did you know even in a church or a program, just because they tell you something doesn't mean it's true. You have to find out for yourself. So these spies come back. They say bad things, negative. We can't do it. It's impossible. But 2 of them said, no, it is. We saw them. We can conquer them. Their walls aren't that tall. The fruit is good. The land is good. We're going to be able to take it. Their weapons aren't that good. If we trust God and we all get together, we're more. We outnumber them. They brought a good report. And then what I read to you was God speaking to them, and he said that they would not enter to the land. It says, verse 31, listen to this. But your little ones, whom you said would be victims, I will bring in, and they shall know the land which you have despised. It all has to do with your point of view. These 12 guys went out. They saw the same things. But one group of men said, we can do it. And one group said it was impossible. Can I tell you that that's the same thing with your life? One group of people can be saying that your change is going to be impossible, that you're going to be the same person you are right now forever, that you can never be free, you can never stop addictions, you can never get ahead in life, you're always going to cap out, you're always going to be limited, you're always going to be in debt, you're always going to be sick. They cap you out negatively. They say that your life changing is impossible. But then there's another group that says, hey, you can. You can choose to change. You can try. You can keep going. Even if you fall, what do you do if you fall? You get back up. What happens if you take 3 steps back when you're on the road to recovery? You take 1 step forward. You can't take them all there, but if you fell 5 steps back, 3 steps back, you can't do anything but go forward. Those are the people in your life saying you got to keep trying. You got to look for help. My question tonight and why I'm wanting to speak on this is, what do you tell yourself? Which camp are you in about your own life? Are you in the negative camp that says, I probably can't do it, I'm probably going to be the same person I've always been, angry, violent, from one relationship to the other, I'm probably never going to change? Or do you look at your life and you say, I can do this, I can make it, I can be different? What camp are you in? What view do you have? One of the things that humans have or possess that animals do not is the need for not just finding comfort, right? Not just finding a shelter, somewhere to live, or just satisfied with, a dog can find a blanket and that becomes his home, right? Just burrows in there. But humans, God designed us to always want to grow. Always want better, higher. You see that in our business world. Rich people don't just stay at where they're at. They want to get richer. And people want to keep trying. In our day and age, we call it hustling. We want to hustle. We want to grind. We want to achieve more than where we're at. That's what God put us for. We need to have that in us, that we want to be better than where we're at. We want to have more than what we have. How many want that? It should be in you. It's not greed. It's not materialism. I don't want to be like that. No, it's something that God put in us that you should want to apply not just to money or to business, but to your entire life. Who you are, you should want to be better than who you are. Oh, you know what? I've come a long way. I'm more patient than I used to be. Awesome. You should strive to be more patient. You know what? I've taken good steps. I'm making good decisions. Great. Continue making those good decisions. Don't just stay where you're at. Look for more. That's what God put in us, to be better, to be greater, to be more advanced. I think there's a danger in human nature, in a person, in a man, when they are okay with where they're at. I'm okay. I've made enough changes. I'm good. That's a dangerous place because that's the first step in the wrong direction. It's a step sideways instead of forward. Don't look at your life and just say, well, we made it this far. I've made this much. I've done this much. No, we need to say, God, I need help to go to the next level. Does anybody have any comments, questions before I move on? Anything that's coming to your mind as I drink some water real quick? And you read it in your own Bible, right? Don't just... Back in the old days, the old religion that they had, they spoke it and read it in Latin. So only the priest was able to read, and that's why people would gather so that he could read the Bible to them, and they would just accept it. But they couldn't read it for themselves because they didn't know how to read Latin. Right? Nowadays, we have everything available to us. We can't just believe what they say. You have to find out for yourself. Very good. I want to look quickly before I move on here is we have to realize there's power in our words. There's power in the words that you say, and there's a power in the words that people say about you. You know, there's an old saying, you can finish it for me. Sticks and stones, but words will never hurt me. You know that's a lie? Can I tell you that? It's a lie. How many here have ever gotten in a fight because of words? Raise your hand. I'll raise two right here. I almost went at Frank right now because he called me a Power Ranger. Words have power. Words can trigger. Do you know you can be just minding your own business and somebody can say a word, 2 words, and they can trigger an emotion from you? They have power. So don't tell me that people saying things about you don't affect you, because they do. People always saying negative things about you will affect your life. There's a saying called speak it into existence, right? Or life imitates art. It has to do with the words that are spoken about you. There's so many stories and instances where people have felt that they couldn't learn, or they had a learning disability, or they had trouble concentrating because so many times their teachers at a young age, maybe they were just distracted, they said, "You're dumb. You're never going to learn." Parents, when they speak that to their children, how many know parents aren't perfect? Double amen to that, right? Parents aren't perfect. And if your parents are perfect, te sacaste la lotería. Because all parents make mistakes, and maybe they don't make mistakes physically. Maybe they weren't abusive, maybe they were, but a lot of parents, or most, or maybe 100% of parents, they make mistakes with the words they speak into you, what they call you, what they say about you. You're never going to amount to anything. You're just a headache in my life. You're a nuisance. You're a bother. Right? Those are the words we hear. You're stupid. You're dumb. I wish I never had you. I wish you weren't a part of this family. Those are the words that we hear spoken in, not just to us. They get spoken into us. And it becomes a part of what we do, how we interact, and what we see. And those words that people begin to speak into your life then will translate into words that you speak about your own life. Can I tell you that your words about yourself have power? What you say about yourself and your life will begin to pass. Power, I have that power? Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. Hey, if you say it loud enough, long enough, maybe. Because you've said you're a loser long enough, and where are you at? You've said you have a horrible marriage, and what do you have? You said you're always broke, and what are you? You said you're never going to get out of debt. Are you still in debt? Those are things that we speak on our life. When you begin to talk to others about your life, not just what you think matters, but what you say. Exactly. And what do seeds do? They grow. They spread. Man, that's good. You need to be careful how you begin to word your life. That defiles a man. Very good. It's very key what you said. God gave us the power of life and death by the words you speak. One time I was talking to a couple, and if you ever heard this woman talk about her husband, it was horrible. He's a loser. He's lazy. He never makes more than $10 an hour at a job. And just, she's going on and on and on. And I stopped and I said, do you want that out of your husband? No, I want him to be more. I want him to be, he's not a gentleman. He doesn't open my door. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. I said, every time I've ever heard you speak about him, whether in joke, whether in serious conversation, whether just in regular conversation, all you ever say is bad, negative things about him or that he is. I said, your words are shaping your marriage. Forget her actions, right? Those are a whole other issue. But her words were shaping her marriage. I said, how about you begin to say, I have an excellent husband. I have a hardworking husband. He's going to make $20 an hour. And what if you spoke those things so often, so much, that even he began to believe them and start doing them? How is a man going to stay lazy if his wife is over there telling everybody he's a hardworking man? He wakes up at 6 in the morning and makes everybody breakfast. How's that man going to feel waking up at 10 in the morning without anything done? He's going to start doing it, right? That's the power of our words. Can I tell you that no one decides who you are, what you are? No one decides the view of your life except for you. So what are you shaping? What are you speaking? How do you view it? It's all about perspective. There's a story that says, maybe you've heard it, there was a shoe company that wanted to begin to expand their business. And they sent 2 investigators to scope out a new market in a remote village. They're starting to expand, and so they went to this remote village. And in this remote village, there was, all the people there were indigenous, and they had no shoes. Everybody walked around barefoot. So the shoe salesman, he saw the feet, and what did he think? Anybody want to guess? Lots of sales? Huge market? Okay, well this guy thought, this isn't going to work. Why am I going to bring shoes if nobody wears them? So he called the office and said, hey, I'm going home. There's nothing here. Went back home, no sales. The other company sent another guy. He saw all the barefoot people, and he called excitedly and said, you're going to need to send me 3 more shipments. Everybody needs shoes. Same situation, different perspectives. Can I tell you that people are going to look at your life and they're going to see something? That's one perspective. But then you need to look at your life and you need to have a different perspective. I know what you see, but this is what I see. I know what you think I'm going to go back to, but I know where I'm going. There needs to be 2 different perspectives when it comes to your life, on what you see, how you view it, your life, your finances, your marriage, your money, your job, your future. Those are things you need to start looking at and saying, I see good. I see life. I see a future. Which one? Perspective. Yeah, 2 different views, 2 different opinions. Go ahead, Craig.
One of the second most important things that we have to consider too is making sure we surround ourselves with the people that have the same perspective as us. Because if you got people that are winning, if your perspective is winning in life, trusting God, walking in faith, believing that God's got the best for you, and you got people always bringing you down, it's like, hey, time to go. Time to go.
Man, that's good. And I got a scripture just for that. John chapter 15, verse 2. John chapter 15, verse 2 says this. Every branch that is in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Does anybody know about gardening? I didn't know anything. So there was a tree. Me and my wife had moved into a house where there was this huge tree. And the owner told us, hey, this is a lemon tree. So you're going to be able to get lemons and you're going to be able to make caldos and all this stuff. I was like, oh, wow, awesome. And I lived there for 2 years. Can I tell you that in the first year, there was no lemons? I mean, I looked and I said, are you sure this tree? And the owner came by 6 months later. I go, hey, I thought you said this tree was, yeah, but it's not season. A whole year went by. Guess how many lemons I got? And so the owner started getting worried. Hey, you need she would give me these bottles of like, I don't know, it was a concoction of banana peels and metal, and I poured it around the root. And I was thinking, man, this lady's doing witchcraft or something, She would tell us to I don't know, all these treatments, and nothing, just never gave fruit. My wife would talk to it, sing to it, put a blanket around it. Finally, we're about to move out. We're already getting ready, and I said, let me clean up the yard as we turn in the house. And I had a gardener come, and he goes, hey, you want me to prune this tree? And I was like, yeah, whatever. I thought he just meant cut it. Well, he pruned it, and it diminished. It was a lot smaller. I was like, okay, hope she doesn't get mad. Well, in the time that it took to move out, which is about a month and a half, guess what started coming out? All the lemons. And I said, what in the world? All we needed to do was prune it since the beginning. That's our life. There's some people, there's some surroundings that are just going to be negative, negative, negative. And if you don't pruning means to cut, right? If you don't cut those things, you're not going to grow. You're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay the same person you are because your surroundings are the same. That tree, it didn't die, it didn't wither. It was just there, not giving what it was supposed to be giving. Until it was cut, then the lemons started coming. And it was a lot. I mean, that lady would give us lemons by the bag, and I said, I used to live there. Like, I didn't get nothing. Could have been selling them and be the next Robert Diaz. Yeah, there you go. Lemonade stand. All right. Before I close off, any other questions, comments, or any stories or anything you want to share having to do with this?
Yeah, first of all, I got here about exactly what you were saying about cutting down, but I just didn't. I don't know. So we were talking about exactly about that, about and you were telling me you need to cut down, cutting down the negative things in my situation, persons I'm surrounded by or trying to be surrounded by. Now God's confirming it in the Word.
That's good, man. It's true. It is true. So, I want to just look at two things. Here we go. Can y'all still hear me? Now I'm going to start preaching. Two things that happen when you don't change your view of yourself, or you believe the negative view. Number one, you become unsatisfied. When you begin to look at your life, you will always be unsatisfied with what you see. You'll look at your marriage and you'll be unsatisfied. You'll look at your finances and you'll be unsatisfied. It's not enough. You look at your family, you look at your children, you look at your situation, you look at yourself, You'll look at the way you live, what you've done, and it's not enough. You're unsatisfied. But that's because want to go forward, can I tell you, sometimes what you need to change is not so much, you don't have control of what you can change, but you can change how you view the situation. You're still going to be in the same situation, just view it different. Look at your life different. Look at yourself different. The second thing that happens when you believe those lies, you don't see a point. There's no point, right? Why try? Why go through a program? Why go to church? Why pray to God? Why do anything? Why try to be a good person if everything's still the same? You need to understand that God, when He looks at your life, He looks at it with love. He loves you. Jesus loves you. And He wants you to change more than you want yourself to change. He's there for you. See, we've talked about people's view of you. We know that. We know what people think of us. How many have heard it, right? Tell it to your face, send it to you in a message. No, it happened to me. There's a saying in Spanish, me dijeron hasta de lo que mi... God sees. What does God see when He looks at you? What does God see when He sees your life? I want to tell you a story. There was once a man who had 2 children, 2 boys, one older and one a couple years younger, and he loved them. This man was very wealthy, so he had a business, he had huge lands and animals, and both of his sons would work, and his oldest son was doing good, and his oldest son was advancing and learning the family business, beginning to move up. And he began to teach his younger son the same, but the younger son never kept up. The younger son was never really interested, always on the side. It was always a hard time. They were always fighting. How many know what that's like? One day, the young son comes to him and says, "Dad, you're dead to me. And because you're dead to me, I want you to give me my inheritance already. I want you to pretend that you died, you wrote your will, and I want that money." Now, if that was my dad, he would have slapped me, right? But this dad was so hurt that he granted him his wish. Fine, I'll give it to you. He drew up his will, he divided his goods, and he paid his son his portion of the inheritance. That's crazy, right? The son said, "Hasta la vista. deuces to everybody, and he took off. And what is a young man going to do with all that money? Well, he ain't going to go start a business, I'll tell you that. He blew it gambling, women, drugs, prostitution, spend it all. But how many know when you got money, you got friends? All the friends were there. Everybody was hanging around him. Everybody wanted to take a selfie with him. Everybody's up in the club, bottles and they're just selfies and hashtags, and they're always with them. Next thing you know, they go, hey, let's go party. He's like, hey, I kind of don't have, can you spot me? How many know that spotting don't work for long, right? Next thing you know, he got no girls. He got no friends. He got no place to live, right? He ends up in a dump, homeless, looking for money, looking for a job. He began to eat out of the garbage. Finally, he says, man, what am I doing? I have a dad that owns all this stuff. I could just go to him. Even if he doesn't accept me as his son, he'll accept me as a worker. I'll work for him. I'll have at least a place to stay. It's better than eating out of this garbage. So the son goes back home, starts hitchhiking all the way home because he didn't have money to get home. Now, I'm going to stop right there. I want your honest feedback. If you were that dad, and be honest, don't say, oh, I would forgive him. I want your honest opinion. Maybe you do forgive him. That's on you. I want your honest opinion. What would you do if you were that guy's son and he knocks on your front door, you open the door, and he's standing there, dirty, nasty, asking if he can have a job? What are you going to do? What would you do with him? Take him in? You have such a good heart.
Now that I'm Christian, I think different. I gotta forgive him and take him in. But to be honest, I'm not lying. I would have been like, oh, that kind of trouble.
Yeah.
Without thinking about it.
Yeah. Come on in. Anybody else? Man, y'all have good hearts. You know what I would have said? I thought you said I was dead to you. And ghosts don't speak. That's what I would have said. But y'all are way better people than I am. Well, this father, when he saw his son, I want you to read the reaction. Luke 15:20. It says, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand, sandals on his feet, bring the fatted calf and kill it. We're going to eat cabrito tonight. Let us eat and be merry, for my son was dead and is now alive. Can I tell you that that's us when it comes to God? I don't know about you, but I've told God he didn't exist. Did any of you say that? I've thought it. I've felt it. I've done things that I know were wrong. But when I came to God, as we can all come to God, he doesn't view us as trash. He doesn't view us as leftovers. He doesn't view us as losers or beneath. God sees you with love, and he says, let me give you the best that I have. So it doesn't matter what they view. It doesn't even matter how you view. It matters what God views. And you need to match your view to God's and say, I want to be better. I'm not destined to fail. I'm not going to be as my family or as everybody else. I know I can move forward. I can be better. Through God's help, I'm going to make it through. Anyway, that's all I had for you tonight. Is there any other questions, comments, anything you'd like to share as I cough my lung out?
this pastor in the neighborhood, he used to invite everybody that he thought needed to go to his house. He had a church in the neighborhood too, pero he told us one time that the words are powerful. He said this lady told him she wanted to die, and that the next day she died.
Dang.
So that's all I wanted to say about when you were talking about the words are powerful.
It's true. They do. They have a way of shaping us, right? There's something called, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into it, but in psychology, there's something called positive words of reinforcement. And it's a way of parenting or teaching where you affirm a child's confidence just by your words, saying they're smart, they're beautiful, they're, whatever it is, that you affirm them. They begin to be confident, not because of anything they've done, but just because of the words being spoken to them. So there's power in there. Very good. Anybody else? Any comment, question? Or what does it say?
That's Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death,
Yes.
and those who love it will eat its fruit.
Thank you, Felipe. That's really good. The power of life and death. That should say something. The Bible doesn't exaggerate things. When the Bible says something, it's literal. How many people have died because of what they've said? Right? Fights and things, and words were spoken, and next thing you know, they're gone. But also life is given through words. How many have ever been, somebody's mad at you and you didn't do anything but speak to them, and at the end they said, I forgive you? Words have that power. You can rebuild relationships through speaking. That's why communication is so key in relationships, friendships, spouses, families. Communicating, speaking, healthy is what makes it last longer. Very good. Thank you, Felipe. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to me tonight. I hope I was able to be of some use here. You were able to take something from this. And let's give it up as our brother Frank comes back to take the mic.
Sure. All right. Hope you all enjoyed that. It's a great having Pastor Jeremy here, and we're going to pass around the bucket for an offering. I'd like to thank our sponsors, our donors. So if you want to give anything in your heart, Eduardo is passing around the bucket, and we'll see you next week. Orlando should be here. Same choose to change time, same choose to change channel. Class dismissed.